Okay, Director Jury, we're resuming here at 12:48. We have a hard stop at 3:30 because this room will be used for something else. Our resident population has doubled, twice nothing. And so we'll continue. I know there are a lot of people watching online right now, and there will be a lot that'll be watching the recordings. So let us continue with the same level of diligence we did to the start. And I know we've got a ways to go.
Okay, so we're going to pick up now with the Building and Inspection Fund. And I wanted to start with a history of that fund over the past 5 years. Back in 2020, the fund had $8.5 million in fund balance. And over the last 4 to 5 years, we have been bringing that fund balance down. 2024 ended the year with a fund balance of $1.4 million. That's a combination of permit fees being waived due to storms, also permit activity decreasing in more recent years. So you'll see in the next slide when we talk about the 2026 budget, the fund balance has been depleted. So if you look at the excess of operating revenues over operating expenses, the fund is projected to have $481,000 income. After allocated overhead, that reoccurring surplus is $106,000. At the end of the fiscal year, they're forecast to have a surplus of $100,000, which would be put aside to build back up to the 20% target.
Yes, ma'am.
So the revenues on that
Pull the mic over.
our revenues for that are down $538,000. And you're saying most of that's due to storm waiving those permits?
In 2026, the budget is less than 2025, primarily due to permit activity declining. So that isn't necessarily due to storm activity. That's historically if you go back one slide. So historically, we started at $8.5 million in fund balance, and you can see over on the right, in 21, 22, and 23, and 24, our expenses were exceeding our revenues by $2.2 million, $1.8 million, $1.7. So we've been spending more than we've been bringing in revenue.
What do you account for? What's driving that increase in personnel?
One of the main drivers is the waiver of permit fees during the storm. There's been a lot of storm activity over the last couple of years. And then we're starting to see in the last year to two permit activity drop due to interest rates and inflation.
So with this, again, my mental capacity here, I'm thinking, if all these people are screaming, slow the growth, we have from 2020, 8.5 million to 1.4 million. It's done it naturally because we were landlocked. We don't have that much land left. So there hasn't been a lot of new building permits. We're down over 500,000 in revenues for that. That's not all storm waiving.
Right.
But then our expenses, it's like we should have, in relationship, our expenses should have dropped in relationship to that. And that was my point earlier, that I said when you have to adjust or tweak quickly, it's hard to do because you don't want to let go of good people. This is a fabulous example of that, how attrition doesn't always work. You have to make quick adjustments, and which goes back to the point that the mayor made with the rollback rate, which I'm not really thinking that rollback rate is right. But this shows you how we've kind of been going down and down with our building permits and inspections. And I can see it. I drive to other cities in Florida, talking about growth explosion. Go to the other coast. Everywhere you look, there's projects going on everywhere. We really have it. And we vote in Deering Park, and we're getting slaughtered for that. Where and how do you pay for things unless you have a growth? Go to these cities that there's no growth, and you're going to see how bad it is. So, again, we need to focus on educating the public. We are less, over $7 million less in funding from building inspections alone over the past 5-year trends.
So let me make sure that we're comparing apples and apples here. So in fiscal year 2020, the fund balance in the building fund was $8.5 million. That's what they had in the bank account. That is too much money for that fund. And so in 2020, the commission, the administration said we need to spend this money down. We need to get rid of this surplus. And so over the course of 5 years, that fund has been spent down. That primarily is the result of giving away permits for free, not charging for building permits. A lot of that for very good reason due to hurricanes and what have you. And so we went from $8.5 million to $6.3 million to $4.5 million to $2.7 and down to $1.4 million. That was the fund balance. So that's money that we've spent. And so now we're at the point of, hey, whoa, slow down. We've given away a lot of free permits, and we can't do that anymore. And by the way, building has slowed, and our revenue from permits coming in is down because the building permits are also down. So we've got to levelize our expenditures and our revenues, and we are doing that. As we began to analyze this fund earlier this year, we said, okay, there are positions in building that we are not going to hire. We have some vacancies that we have not filled those positions. And now there are some other more critical positions, inspectors in particular, that we have filled when they've become vacant. But the more clerical, administrative, we have not. And I expect that we will continue to do that throughout the course of fiscal year 2026. You know, we have to very carefully monitor the permit activity and the revenues that we're generating to make sure that we're in balance there. There's no question about that, and it's something that we're acutely aware of and that we are taking steps to appropriately manage.
Just a quick question. Do we have an estimated dollar value of the post-storm $0 permitting and fees? And I'm just saying that, not that we need an answer today, but when somebody says, what the heck, it's an easy thing to say, we had to take from that fund X number of dollars from the stormwater repairs and recovery. So, just be nice.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get that information.
Commissioner McGurk.
So just a brief statement about that. You know, I'm not sure it was ever completely clear to me why we have timing issues sometimes in building and planning, how long people have to wait for permits. And of course, there's a big debate over what, you know, where that is. So when we gave back by not charging for permits, it was never made sense to me why we could not use that money to address faster permitting, whether we needed more staff members at what level in the building department. So it's still something that to this day, it's always been there. So I guess my thing is, not sure why we didn't use some of those revenues to try to speed up permits as opposed to just giving it all back. That's not something that, this administration was involved in, but it was never clear to me. And going forward, if something like that happens again, maybe that's an indicator of resources we can use to speed up permitting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would a more accurate reflection of the growth profile be the number of permits issued? And I wondered if maybe we could get a 5-year profile, not for today, but soon, to have a number of permits issued for the last 5 years in various categories. This is also getting to my point about business process reengineering, echoing what Commissioner McGurk said about processing time. A small town does it one way, and a large town does it a different way because of the volume. We're probably somewhere in the middle. And I understand we've got a reputation amongst many of the builders as tough. Some use other words to describe that. I also understand that there are other cities that are models of that builders want to build in their town because of the efficiency with which they can get the permits. There's some way to detangle all that and make that so apparent, so transparent, that we were best in class of doing something. Not encouraging people to do it, but best in class in the processing. If we want to change the growth profile of our city, I don't want to do it on the backs of the city staff, where the city staff gets blamed for being slow. And the answer is, well, that's the commission that wants us to slow everything down. That just gives you a bad reputation as an administrator. So understand we've got an online system now which automated a bad process previously. So now we've got a bad process online. That's how many builders describe it to me. I think we're ripe for business process reengineering inside this organization. And as you tie your theme, strategic priority themes to the budget, I would hope that this might be one of them.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else?
This slide depicts the Community Redevelopment Agency Fund. This fund collects the tax increment revenue from real property within the CRA boundaries. It is restricted and has to be spent within the boundary. The 2026 budget anticipates $2.9 million in new revenues. Capital expenses of $6.7 million, which we'll talk about on the next slide. $3.4 million for incentives and business assistance. At the end of the day, if all goes well, they would spend all of their fund balance. The projects, the 6.7 in projects, some of the highlights are $2.5 million for airport infrastructure and beautification. You've got $2.3 million for sports complex LED light conversions, $500,000 for the sports complex playground, and $500,000 for Smith Street remediation and redevelopment. And there's some smaller projects in there as well.
Can I have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Surprised to see the airport on here because I thought they were all self-sufficient, inclusive. So I'm trying to understand the airport infrastructure and beautification. And I don't think Arvin's here now.
Yeah.
But you
so-
understand my confusion?
I do.
Okay.
So I can address some of this, and as Arvin and Sam come back, they can address additional. So we have the airport. The airport is in the CRA district.
I know.
The airport is a infrastructure asset that we have available for future economic development, and spending CRA resources to enhance the airport for future economic development is certainly a valid expenditure of those CRA dollars. And that's the basic idea. There, you know, the airport, the look of the airport is does not match the new Smyrna Beach.
Aesthetic?
Yes, I'm trying to say that politely. And so I do think, and I've spoken at length to Arvin about this and Sam, that we need to up our game at the airport in terms of the look of the airport. And when somebody visits our community, gets off that airplane, this is what they see, and I want it to be attractive and representative of our community. But more than that, I want it to be a real economic development asset for the city as well, and a catalyst for further redevelopment of the US 1 corridor, which really has been a big part of our redevelopment efforts, at least over the last 5 to 10 years. And that's, you know, as we are able to invest in the airport, see more development at the airport, I would contend that will benefit the rest of the corridor and promote further redevelopment of some of the uses that I think we would all like to see turn over.
Have we been able to calculate the economic impact to the city funds? In other words, our return on investment for the city bank as opposed to anybody else's? And
As in terms of the investment in the CRA, or?
no, just this particular, like the airport in general,
Yeah.
you know. For example, you know, it doesn't pay tax to the city as far as I know. I mean, what kind of revenue what is our return on investment?
So is that something that you're prepared to answer, you guys? I don't, okay, all right. And we're certainly happy to get additional information. I may or not have that.
So, this goes back a few years, and we're due for another one, but FDOT did a study in 2022 that showed about a $220 million annual economic impact from the airport.
What I was actually asking is what goes into the city bank? Not, you know, I understand that it promotes the businesses and it's all great for that. But on the other hand, if there's a cost to the city and the property taxpayers, we would like to see also, I would assume, some, you know, when my next door neighbor says, why are we giving money to the airport? How do I justify any use of property tax? And if there was some revenue stream directly into our funds, one of our funds, I can say it pays for itself. But anytime we're doing something that benefits the economic climate as opposed, but uses our property taxes to do that, it gets to be a really tricky question to answer. So.
Yeah, other than, I'm not sure that I'm prepared to answer that particular question.
That's
so,
okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're asking a number of questions
Sure.
today that people don't we're thinking a little differently.
Sure, sure.
So, you know, future times.
Thank you, Arvin. Appreciate it. Commissioner McGurk?
Actually, I got a question for Arvin on that. So, Vice Mayor brings up a good point, I think, which then dovetails into what is the airport's economic potential? I've seen master plans, I've seen numbers. You just said FAA projected it produces now 220 million worth of value.
FDOT.
So,
FDOT, yeah, that study is on our website, nsbairport.com, and it can be made available to anybody. But that was a study, now it's 3 years old, so I'm sure that number's probably gone up.
yeah, so I think it's interesting in understanding what is the future of the airport. You know, what can it actually produce? I would like to see, I'm not sure the FAA study, you know, who knows how they did the study, but I think the question that is still out there is, what kind of economic potential is there in the future? In other words, where are we at? Where can it be? And what would we need to do to get that? This, you know, that's not a simple question like, this is here, this is what it could be, because there's pros and cons. So the question is, where do we want the airport? What are the goals of the airport? And what is the pro and cons of that, considering that you are talking about an airport with 3 sides residential on it? The question is, you know, where can it be? Where do we want it to be? So a study like that would be very beneficial, also considering that, you know, a significant portion of it now are flight schools. How do we want to see it grow? Do we want to continue? Do flight schools, it's the majority of the use of the airport. Is that, do we want to continue on that path? In terms of, I'm talking about, you know, the economic benefit to the community, to the city. What's the best path forward?
I just
Thank
want
you.
to add before, I know Sam has something here to share with you, but one of the goals of the master plan that we're proposing that we do undertake next year is to help answer those questions. And that's a public process with public input, certainly your input, to determine where do we go for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I've read master plans, and it's very academic. It's not necessarily meat and potatoes. So I'd like to see, and that has nothing to do with you. It's just the
Right.
nature of the plan. It hits a lot of requirements, requirements that need to be done. So the ability to get in there and ask the right questions and look at it from a true economic standpoint would be beneficial.
Thank you.
I would just say, you know, this may not be the time to have this discussion because it's an almost philosophical one. So,
I have some numbers, if that helps.
Jonah?
So the Volusia County at their quarterly meeting last month, they provided some information for the Florida state as well as Volusia County as a whole for the economic impact of aviation and aerospace companies here in the state of Florida. So basically in the state of Florida, there's 2,000 plus aviation establishments, 700 plus aerospace establishments, 125 public use airports, 21 commercial service airports, 13 aviation-related military installments, and 3 spaceports, which equates to 141,000 employed people and $9.8 billion in exports.
Well, excuse me, but what I was really looking for was like, we know on property, there's a tax that goes back to the city. You know, just whatever. And again, this may not be the venue to have this discussion.
And just in GDP of Volusia County for aerospace and aviation, so back in 2015, it was about 111 million. And as of 2024, it was 187.9 million.
Again, we're having a philosophical as opposed
exponential economic impact of airports in general.
Thank you, guys.
And I'm so glad
We
those
asked-
owners are making lots of money.
We asked the question, we appreciate you answering what question was asked. Yes, ma'am.
So with the comment that was just made, though, I think by Commissioner McGurk, to our vision going forward and what our capabilities are, if we do more with the airport side and not the flight schools, it was my understanding we don't have a choice in the flight schools. They dictate where they are. Is that not true?
Well, I'm not sure on the question. We have a decision in that completely.
Yeah.
Now, it's not an easy decision, and it has implications, but there's lots of flexibility that the city has on how the airport is ran and how it grows and all that. So yeah, if you're under the impression that we have no control over the flight schools and that they've taken over the vast majority of operations there and we're stuck with that, that's not accurate.
I think that's where the clarification needs to be here, not with what the airport is bringing to us. It's because of what you told us in your commission reports Tuesday night. with this Epic school is what are our options? What's Epic bringing to us that's causing all of this noise problems with our community? Do we need them? Can we replace that revenue with something else if it continues to be such a burdensome with our citizens? Because I sat out here with those workshops and it sounded to me like we didn't have a choice with Epic, that they dictated that to us. So if that's not the case, then we should definitely have a workshop on all of that.
It's a complicated issue in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mr. Cowper comes to the city and does his assessment and says, hey, these are great things, and these are things in the other category that I'd like to increase the appeal and appearance for. And so if we are offering direction that says we don't want to improve the airport, we ought to be very specific. He thinks that's a good place to invest our money to make an airport different than the dated look that it has. And so if we don't like that, we ought to say something about it collectively. The only game in town right now of Central Florida is the cradle of flight schools and aviation training. And so more training in anywhere in the world goes on here in Central Florida. If we want to be a part of that industry, we're going to continue down this road. Setting the guideposts and the guidelines of what we're willing to tolerate for that is fully in our scope. So if we're crushing the residents, we can certainly work our way out of that. And given the current terrible climate, whatever it is that is going on between us and Epic, that needs to get resolved, and then we can move on down the road together, or decide to divide up and not go that way. Anyway, it's a big deal. It's the biggest spend he's got in there. And so if we don't like that, then we ought to talk about it. We ought to say something. I'm not opposed to it. I like the direction it's headed. Commissioner Martin.
Smith Street, it seems to me that I read at one point that the plan was to use Smith Street as a parking lot. And I would like to know parking for what? Because one of my big concerns is that we have this beautiful parking lot on the, the northwest corner of Canal and US 1, that on occasion I have seen a vehicle in there, and I have great difficulty in appropriating more money for something like, that's several blocks away, as near as I can tell. And so I'm trying really hard to understand what that use would be.
Sure. Sam, can you talk about what your remediation, can you talk about the remediation at Smith Street and what that project entails? I'm not aware that we have made any commitments toward a parking lot.
Well,
No. We haven't.
Perhaps it was in the agenda packet that
I
I
think
saw
that it may have been discussed, but no decisions have been made on that.
It was discussed when we did the budget amendment earlier this year as a potential possible use, but Mr. Ray and I had discussed, other potential uses for that once the remediation is completed with Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And, a playground really doesn't make sense because there will be continued monitoring wells and so forth, because that contamination is in the water. It's in the dirt and in the water. So there will be continuous monitoring wells that we'll have to be responsible for continuing. So we thought kind of capping it off might be the best, but nothing had been decided and no direction yet from the city manager has been given. So it was just an idea that we were floating.
Well, I should point out that the agenda that was in the packet that our public saw, on page 35, it says Smith Street remediation and redevelopment for a parking lot.
I got you. Okay.
So that's why I thought it was going to be developed for a parking lot.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think at this point our interest is in remediating the site and getting it back into some sort of productive use. You know, the easy thing to do for the remediation would be to put asphalt on it, and that would prevent any human contact to the soil that's kind of the easy thing to do. And, you know, if it's parking, it could just be looked at as an interim use. But certainly, I don't think anybody's married to the idea of a parking lot there. You know, I don't know if it would serve the hospital. I don't know if it would serve our nearby rec facilities. It, you know, doesn't make any sense to do something that doesn't make any sense or have a productive use to it. But we do need to clean the property and prep it for redevelopment.
No, I do know that the property needs to be clean. I'm just hesitant about spending a lot of, spending real money on another unused parking lot. Now, if the decision is made, say, to lease that parking lot to, I don't know, a very closely adjacent business, that's a different story. But, but as it stands.
Please proceed.
The fleet fund, we're budgeting 1.9 million operating revenues, same amount in operating expenses. The fleet fund charges back the other departments that use its services, so it's meant to break even. Law Enforcement Trust
Can we
Fund.
camp on this, on that for a second, please?
Sure.
Commissioner Perry.
So looking at that, the revenues went up 200, but the expenses went up much more. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. The operating revenues are projected to be higher due to a hourly rate increase for labor. Currently, I believe they charge $75 per hour. After looking at the market, it appears they should be charging more in the line of $140 per hour for their labor. So that's why revenues are up. Expenses are up partially because of the pay plan study implementation, partially due to new software that's needed to improve the tracking of vehicle maintenance and when vehicles need to be replaced. Parts and gas are also projected to be higher due to inflation, tariffs, and that type of thing.
So I also noticed on the asset sales, I think that's in another section in the book, that you have always had surplus equipment sales and in the general fund revenue, but this year we do not. Is there a reason why we're not selling any of our old stuff this year? Because it was, if you go back 5 years, it looks significant in some years and some we didn't, but shouldn't that fleet always have sales every year from auction?
We typically don't budget for them. What you're seeing is what we actually earned, but we typically don't just add it to the budget. It's something like the replaced vehicles, he will put it back out on the list and sell it as it ends.
When I went back and looked at that trend, though, in my big book that Rob has, I saw where we did have some sales and we did budget for it in the past, but we're not this year. So I wasn't sure if that was just an error in accounting or what.
It could have been a budget amendment done after the fact, after the actual amount came in. We typically would budget revenues conservatively because if they don't materialize, you've got an offsetting authority to spend. But it is something we could go back and look at.
Okay, thank you.
But we do plan on selling whatever surplus equipment
Yeah.
that we can.
Okay.
But we will not stop that
Yeah,
program.
take a
Yes.
look at that
Yeah.
close when you have an opportunity, because
Sure.
I just noticed that was a little off.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Now we're going to talk about a couple of the non-operating special revenue funds. The Law Enforcement Trust Fund gets proceeds from the sale of assets that are seized by the police department. There's a federal and a local component. It is very restrictive on how the money can be spent, so money is accumulating in there year over year. For 2026, we're budgeting very limited interest earnings and purchases with the remaining available for the police department to come mid-year and identify an eligible expense.
Can you buy cars?
I do not know. I would probably ask for a legal opinion on that.
I don't know.
But
I'd be happy to take a look at that as well.
I just know we go through them.
Yes.
Law enforcement
I think I do know AEDs is a big use. I think some drug prevention type programs. I'm not sure about the vehicles, but we can take a look. The tree fund is new this year. The money in the past has gone into the general fund, and it has been difficult to track and ensure that it is used for, replacing the tree canopy, maintaining the trees. So we've created a new fund. Any future collections will go into that fund and then be appropriated as need be to address our trees and urban forestry.
This will be a big topic as we talk about the tree ordinance. Commissioner Perrine.
So would that new person oversee that as well? Where the trees go in the parks, or is that Standard David's
Yeah,
privilege?
I don't anticipate the new position would be directly involved in the tree fund. They could potentially be, depending on their background, abilities, and what have you, but I'm not anticipating that.
Okay, thank you.
Who runs it? Who will run it? Who will run it now? Is it part of David's kingdom?
So the funds get collected through planning and development, and typically the trees that are purchased with those funds, then they're planted on public lands, and David and Public Works oversee that planting operation. And I think we've got trees kind of stacked up now, don't we, to plant? So
Qualitative input for that.
Yes, we have trees over at our tree farm at the sport complex. And then we also partner with the UC on giving out saplings every year during Arbor Day celebration as well.
So we're, as we need to replace tree canopy in public areas, then David and his team do that.
Yeah, mechanically, I'm thinking it works just fine. I was thinking more of a qualitative approach to it.
Yes.
Where is it appropriate? David's busy slaying dragons. He's probably not looking at where he's going to plant things.
Yes, I think you're exactly right, and just kind of migrating back to the big picture and some of the things that we want to accomplish and that we have talked about with the staff. Certainly the North Causeway area and 3rd Avenue gateway to the beach, and there's a lot of areas where I think we can do additional landscape enhancements and treescape improvements, in a more targeted area and a more visible area too. So we'll, continue to use these assets to make visible improvements to the city based on planning projects that we do.
Really, really good. And I'm sorry to delay anymore, but you brought up North Causeway and the trees and the
I knew that was a mistake.
You know where I'm headed. The annual put the Humpty Dumpty back together again and stand the trees back up. Those are oak trees. They need drier.
Yes.
That's not the environment for them. That's a great cypress tree haven, and we could get tons of those, and they would thrive there. But those oaks, we will continue to expend David's team
And
standing them back up
we
until we get rid of them and put the tree in that needs to be there.
we understand that for sure, and David's already relocated some. I think we're going to be relocating additional ones and replacing them with a more appropriate tree. And again, I think there's a lot of opportunity in that corridor to do some really cool stuff, and landscaping will be a big part of that.
Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, I understood that those North Causeway trees came from some kind of a grant with stipulations that we had to keep them there for X number of years. And I don't know when they've never just, developed a root system. So the question is how long does that mandate last?
So it was done through a JPA, and there has to be something there. We have to have trees, shrubs, has to be there.
So they don't have to be the oaks
They
that
don't
are
have to
there
be
now?
Yeah, they don't have to be the oaks, but any improvement or any removal or replanting will be on the city's expense. So we had a full arborist report done on every single oak tree there, so we can bring that over to DOT and get their approval to start removing some of those oak trees and replant them somewhere else.
Perfect, as Detweiler Park would be nice. Okay, but we will be replacing it then with something more appropriate for
Yes.
the environment there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, David. Please proceed.
Now we'll move into the capital project funds. We have several impact fee funds that had been set up as special revenue funds. We are moving those to capital project funds. It's semantics, so you're going to see an old fund and a new fund, but in the old police impact fee fund, we'll be transferring about 1.2 million in cash over to the new impact fee fund. This is the new impact fee fund. You can see the transfer in there at the top. That we're also anticipating a fine grant, new impact fee collections, interest earned, and then those funds will be spent on the police boathouse construction, and a joint police fire parking lot expansion for a total of $597,000. That will still leave almost 1.2 million in the police impact fee fund at the end of 2020-26. And I should also mention there is an impact fee study underway for police, fire, recreation, and we already did roads, but those three. Probably some point in fiscal year 2026, we could be looking at rate increases for those. We have built the 2026 budget based on the existing rates. Fire impact fee fund, this is the old fund, anticipating transferring about 1.2 million in cash to the new capital project fund. The new fund will have the 1.2 coming in, 200,000 in new impact fee collections, 47,000 in interest earned, and the only project contemplated currently is that joint police fire parking lot construction. The fund should end the year around 1.4 million in reserve for future projects and capital needs. Recreation impact fee fund, same thing, transferring about 1.7 million into the new fund. New impact fee collections estimated to be 500,000 with 75,000 in interest earned. The projects contemplated for 2026 are a skate park mini ramp, golf course maintenance bay, and a Turnbull Street pump track. Totals 123,000. The transportation impact fee fund has about 6 million in cash that will be transferred to the new impact fee fund. New collections are anticipated to be about 500,000 with 200,000 in interest earning. At this stage, there are no projects slated for 2026. We'll continue to look at that, but there will be almost $7 million available to tackle something that's growth related and on a city-owned street. Some of your other capital.
Question
sorry.
on the impact fees fund. We've had a meeting up here about that traffic light in the on 44, and then also the building on Flagler Avenue. I think that building was purchased out of this.
It was, and.
How is that going to end up? Is
so
that reflected in both of those things?
It is reflected. We've transferred funds in the budget here from the parking fund back into the transportation fund to pay for the Flagler building.
So we're clean now
We
with
are,
that? We don't have
yes.
to worry about that anymore?
Well, we will be once the budget.
Yeah,
Is
that
adopted.
will be coming to you in a budget amendment at your next regular commission
Okay.
meeting to transfer the $950,000 from parking proceeds back into the transportation impact fee fund.
So you're doing it all at once? We're not doing this on an annual prorated, long-term basis, just rip the
I mean,
Band-Aid off?
the money is there,
Sweet.
so we think we should just go ahead and do it.
All right. Any debate about that? Okay.
Other capital project funds, we have the Turnbull Creek General Obligation Bond. Back in 2018, the voters, through a referendum, approved up to a $15 million bond issuance to buy land along the Turnbull Creek and preserve it. Currently, the city has borrowed $9.5 million. The annual debt service for that is about $610,000. It equates to 0.0895 mils, so about $8 per $100,000 of property value. The fund is dwindling. We only have about $1 million left, maybe less after Ron has a few purchases in the hopper. So we are recommending that in 2026 we borrow the additional $5.5 million. There are properties lined up of interest to the committee and the city. The $5.5 million, if borrowed at current market conditions, would result in additional debt service of about $420,000 and an additional voted debt millage rate of 0.0594, so about almost $6 more per $100,000 in value.
I have a question.
Yeah, this one we want to talk about, environmental, economic conditions notwithstanding. Commissioner Perrine.
So with this, I think I asked Tuesday night if we had to borrow money. Here we go. We've got 2 large parcels that the board I know is looking at. There's a huge possibility those are going to be developed if we don't purchase those. And I know they're looking at those. Could we get from that board from now on, before we have to vote, their priority list and the impacts of, like, for example, this last one that we just voted on to purchase, I don't want people to run out and buy swampland, pennies on the dollars, and turn back around and sell it to us for over the appraisal like what just happened. So if there's value to that, like access to the creek or the priority from the Turnbull board, then I want to see that, because appraisals are great, but it's what a price is what the market will spend on it. Had that property been on the market for years and that seller just couldn't sell it, I asked those questions and I didn't get an answer. I am pro buying this land, but you can see now I'm cautious with what we buy, and I'd like to see this as a priority and as one of those objectives for this board, which I've been saying up here, what are board's objectives, and are they meeting those objectives? Well, that board has done a lot, for us, and Donna has been a rock star, and we can definitely see value in what they've done. But also, there's a lot to this, like the homeless camps, and I think this would be a really good place to start, because she brings fabulous presentations to us, and we can see that, and we've got great resources at our fingertips that we can utilize this for what's coming up, so that we aren't buying land and having to pay interest on this land we just want to make sure we're doing great purchases. And up here, I would like some kind of better measures of what priority this land is to go in conservation based on it going into a development.
Commissioner Martin?
A couple of things. I'd like going forward to first know that we actually look at property. We got a very unpleasant surprise with two of the items from this Tuesday's budget. So it would be interesting to know if at any point anybody goes and looks, or is this all being done by computer? Well, there you go. And the other one is we seem to, I'm wondering if we're not missing some grants because we haven't applied in a timely way, and will Olivia be taking over that, the grants for the Turnbull preservation?
Well, my plan is to have the new natural resource coordinator do that work.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this would fall then under the natural
Yes.
resource? Okay, thank you.
And there would obviously be coordination with the capital project director and his staff.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just don't like the idea of us potentially moving missing grants and,
I completely agree, and I think we need to put some resources to go after those grants, and because I agree with you, there's certainly money there to be had, and we need to make sure that we're getting our fair share of it.
and I'm a little also uncomfortable with our contract price, that what we're offering. But we've had that discussion before.
Yeah, we generally, people know that they're dealing with us, and they become less willing to negotiate, and that's just a fact. And it's very difficult for us to stay anonymous through a process of purchasing property. It's just the reality. When we buy property, people want us to buy it for the max, and when we sell it, people want to buy it for the least.
So,
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
sorry. In our briefing, there's a parcel coming up for sale that the neighbors wanted to buy. Is that going to go on the market or out? How are you going to advertise it so we can get the best value?
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for you yet. There is an item on the draft strategic stuff I gave you to look at our surplus properties and to figure out the best way to divest ourselves of that. I mean, frankly, sometimes the only use for property parcels is for the adjacent property owner. You know, if it had great value and great use, we probably wouldn't be owning it, because most of the stuff we acquire through code enforcement action or whatever the case may be. So, but yes, we certainly need to look at that and somehow get that property back to a productive use, whether that's selling it to an adjacent owner or even giving it to something like Habitat for Humanity for them to build homes on, selling it if there is a market for the acquisition. All of that would be on the table.
Yes,
A lot of that would help us if we know what, you know, if that lot is buildable before we set a price up here to vote.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if a house can be built on that property or if it's just a scrap lot with nothing that can be done.
Yes, ma'am. Understood, and that's why I wanted to have individual conversation before having anything on the agenda.
very good. Thank you, sir. Commissioner McGirt?
Thank you, Mayor. So, you know, going off what Valley is saying, you know, one of the most frustrating things is property acquisition. And before the Turnbull bond, anytime we had property acquisition issues, we're in the worst case because we cannot speak about it. But so I can't go to you, Valley, pull you to the side and say, hey, you know what? I think that we'll pay 140 for it, but I think we can get 125. Let's hold out. Are we not allowed to use straw buyers? Because we all know straw buyers work, and, you know, Mickey Mouse was developed on straw buyers.
Right.
So-
And Let me qualify that by, I'm not fully up on Florida real estate, city buying stuff.
Right, don't wanna
so
put you on the
attorney
spot on that.
may correct me here. Historically, where I have worked, we have used third-party agents to purchase property for the city, and that does help keep the prices down. There's no questions
Absolutely.
about it. I'm not certain that we can do that
Yeah.
in Florida, and I would defer to legal counsel to get me an answer to that.
So because the first thing, if someone wants to buy my property, I'm like, who is it, what do they want to do with it, right? I
absolutely.
mean, we're all like
Right.
that. So I'm willing to say now, we're in a public meeting, I can say this to you, I would not mind on properties like we just bought, I'm telling you right now, a couple maybe not so important properties, maybe we decline them because they're too expensive going forward. And then set that precedent and wait and see if they come back to us.
Well, the
I don't
other
want to
part-
have that, I don't want to have that discussion when it comes up because everybody's watching, including the land buyer. But letting you know right now that, hey, I think maybe we place some, hold back a little bit and kind of set that tone would be a great idea on a kind of piece of property we just bought.
And in our defense, it puts us on the spot. The agenda is released on Wednesday before I knew, I looked at that property, I know that property, and I didn't know it was going to come back to us and then really, we had the holiday, and then Monday is my briefing, Tuesday night we vote. So, and this is when I saw those properties, I knew there was a homeless camp behind. I mean, everybody pretty much in the city knows there's a homeless camp behind Publix on that one property. But, the people in our city that know that would be our homeless police officer. And to actually see those photos, and the impact of the price of that cleanup just blows my mind. And this is where, is that county's code enforcement or is that city's code enforcement? I had probably 30 questions back and forth on that in a short amount of time from that time of hitting our agenda. And it's like, okay, I got to run out there. Is this it? Okay, we got 2 parcel numbers. Did Vlad say that the one is going to be a worse cleanup than KFC? I don't know which parcel numbers that is. I'm trying to look at the property tax map. I can't call you guys and say, hey, time out. So it is a mess when it comes to that.
And I may be the one person in the city that isn't aware that there was a homeless camp behind Publix. It just was not on my radar, and it is in the county. So, we will make sure that that is properly vetted going forward, so that we can avoid that.
Thanks, sir.
And I will also say, if we do a presentation publicly and we say, these properties here, here, and here, these are our target priority properties, the price of that property just went up. So you have to be careful what we're doing.
So a former city manager at other places in Florida, what do you know about a third-party buyer?
Third-party buyer, I don't know any explicit prohibition, except our internal purchasing policies require 2 appraisals when we buy properties. So how you do that with a straw buyer is very difficult. The best fix is, back in my career in Illinois, one of the exclusions of open meetings, and that you could go into closed session to discuss, was the purchase or sale of real estate by the municipality because of the difficulties in discussing purchase price ranges. I had a situation in Eustis where we wanted to buy a piece of property that was going up for public auction, and we had to be very careful on what I was authorized to bid on that property. So unless we want to modify our purchasing procedures internally, we can get with legal to look at any statutory prohibitions, but our internal policies wouldn't allow for a straw buyer at this point based on how we do that.
So, Mr. City Attorney, we go into shade meetings for contract negotiations, which is costly to the city. Surely, a reasonable approach, you can find out whether that would be possible for us when we're talking about major expenditures like that.
Yeah, we can certainly do some research on that and coordinate with the city manager's office. Make sure we get you an answer on that.
Thanks, Grant. Mr. Manager, is this, does this become part of the budget that we're going to go borrow some money? Is that what I'm hearing?
So this, yes, this would be part of setting the millage rate for next year.
We're going to go
So,
borrow
and again,
5.5.
we've got $1 million or so left in the fund. We've got 1.1 million in property acquisition that we know of, and other properties that we would like to acquire. So we think the time is now.
I'm assuming that that increase to the budget is already reflected in your proposed budget.
It is.
In other words, yeah, so we wouldn't see it over and above what you've got.
Correct.
Thank you.
No, you see, that's going to borrow an additional 5.5. You say we got about $1 million left, right?
Yes.
And we're going to go ask for 5.5.
Yes.
Gotcha.
We
We have $1 million cash left.
We can still borrow on the original bond, 5.5 million.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Would it be market rate or the rate preset?
The borrowing would be a tax exempt rate, which right now is probably about 4.5%. It would be probably put out to bid. We have a financial advisor who we'd work with to determine if it would be a bank loan or a bond.
So, so the will of the commission, they want to go borrow the 5.5 and keep going?
Well, my question would be would we borrow it in anticipation, or would we borrow it when it's time, would we actually borrow it when it's time to use it?
Well, we're planning to delay the takedown of the money as long as we can. I don't want to take down $5.5 million and just sit on it. We need to
That's
be
what I
ready to
was
spend it.
checking on.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Right. And for $5.5 million, it could be local bank here. You know, I can't imagine we'd actually go to the bond market for that amount of money. But, you know, we'd probably shop around and see what kind of interest rate we can get.
So when we write that contract offer, we can put in there enough time to get the loan, however long that loan takes, to the seller, and that becomes a condition of the contract and purchase of the
It
sale.
could-
So we don't need to do it in advance. We just need to do it when we have the contract and know how our nice attorneys here can write the offer and how long it's going to take before they close.
It would probably take about 3 months to borrow the money. We did plan to come to commission at the next meeting in July with what they call an intent to reimburse resolution, which would allow properties to be purchased in advance of the borrowing, perhaps using general fund money to cash flow it, and then at such time,
Good.
you can reimburse the general fund.
Thank you. Commissioner McGirt.
Yeah, brief history on that. You know, we debated vigorously on whether or not at a very low interest rate, when we originally set this up, whether or not we should have just borrowed the entire amount. And of course, hindsight being 2020, yeah, we should have done that. But seeing how where interest rates are now, and I think that it's very likely they're just going to keep going down, I would not be in favor of just, you know, tapping into that 5.5 million now. We can do that at a later date, you know, but the question was vigorously debated for a number of years, whether or not we should be tapping into that. So just a little piece of
Right.
history
So
there.
ultimately, the question here is, do we include this new millage in the tax bills for next year? That's what we're doing. The actual borrowing of the money, we'll have to go through a process. You will most certainly have to approve that before we do anything. But this will just give us the ability to start collecting the money so that we can pay that debt.
So by collecting it now, we might be able to be coming up with a reserve against that 5.5? Or do we just put it into general fund? I mean,
No, it will sit in its its own account.
It'll sit in its own
Right.
account, so we're functionally building up money towards
Potentially.
the repayment of the loan, or to say we only have to borrow 5 million, not 5.5, whatever, right? But, okay, so it's just sort of putting a piggy bank
Yeah,
towards it.
right.
Thank you.
And it'll earn some interest.
Thank you.
So if McGurk was right, he probably wouldn't be sitting on the dais here. He'd be out making all sorts of money. You'd see he's here, though, right? All right.
Okay.
Proceed, please.
This slide depicts the capital project, the large kind of general capital project fund for the city. It's typically where general fund money is transferred, loan proceeds are put, grant revenue is deposited for a wide variety of capital needs. In the 2026 budget, we have 11.2 million in resources that will be available to fund a variety of projects. Gas tax is 400,000. That will be used for resurfacing because it is restricted. We have some grant money of 1.7, and then the 9 million coming from the general fund that we talked about this morning. The projects that will be undertaken, 220,000 for new vehicles, 1.9 million for replacement vehicles, 2 million for road resurfacing, and 6 million for Washington Street improvements. And then there's a lot of smaller capital, machinery and equipment that total 6.1. And it's further itemized here if you had any questions about that.
Yeah, can you go back for just a second to that next previous one? So it's a decrease overall in what we're going to put aside for capital?
Yes, so Fund 302 was a very generic capital project fund, and in the past, a lot of resources were put into that fund that are restricted. For example, stormwater money was deposited, impact fee money was deposited. We have created additional capital projects so that money doesn't get commingled. So even though it looks like a decrease in Fund 302, your other new capital project funds are increasing by that decrease in this fund.
That helps, thank you very much. Replacement of vehicles. And there's no money budgeted in the previous year, or was it in a different account?
It was in
2025, I'm looking at nothing, and 2026 proposed is 1.9.
Yeah. Some of these expenditures were directly in the general fund in previous years. We've chosen in 2026 to transfer the money out to a capital project fund and reflect the expenditures in the capital project fund. That way your general fund is just pure operating.
Okay, what's our history? With regard to vehicles, I'm sensitive to that because it seems like we're always buying vehicles.
Yeah.
What's, and unfair for me to ask you right now, but what has it been for the last 5 years, every year? $2 million a year for vehicles, or what?
I believe it's been approximately 1.5. That's a generalization. In addition to that, over the last 2 years, the commission has been tucking away money for vehicle replacement in addition to the vehicles they purchased. It was $700,000 2 years ago was put into a savings account, $500,000 into a savings account this year. After discussions with the city manager, we felt it was more appropriate just to budget reoccurring vehicle replacement every year at a set level instead of doing that in.
I understand. How'd you come up with a number as to what I'm at? What was that, and I imagine history would tell us.
Yeah, so that's all based on the fleet and the age of the fleet and the expected life cycle of the fleet, the different equipment that we have. So, frankly, we're pretty hard on vehicles, particularly public safety. A police vehicle is 5 to 7 years. And so, the sooner we can get on a replacement schedule that works, we can dispose of older vehicles whilst they still have some value to them and not overly expensive in their maintenance. So, you know, with a police car, that's a great example. Are we on about a 7-year cycle
Yeah,
with that?
a 5 to 7 year.
Yeah. So, and that's about right. So you and I, we may drive our pickup truck for 20 years, right? I mean, because we can, but we can't put a police car out there really for, 5 to 7 years is about it. And half of them are going to get in accidents.
Well, I know we're in trouble when we give an annual award
Probably
out.
more than half of them. Yeah. The new ones always seem to get in the
Yeah.
accidents. But
So you know we're in trouble when we give an annual award out for the cop that has been the longest since he's crashed a car. I mean,
it's just the nature of the beast there.
Yeah.
It's
Ms.
nobody's
Martin.
fault.
Okay, so as I understand it, Director Ray has put a robust savings plan, calculated savings plan, so that we don't get these big hits every year, right? I was just thinking it might also be handy, if not now, but if the different departments, or how we could see the policy for who gets what vehicle and what happens at the end or when somebody transfers, just our general citywide policy for vehicles.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sorry, Ms. Martin?
I thought Commissioner Breen had.
Oh, I'll see everybody up and down the road like I have all day. Thank you. So we have a fleet, and yet this is the big city versus small city question, Kevin. Our small city, everybody got a car. Everybody in the city got a car, and they use their car all day long. Other cities, big cities, have a fleet, and you go and check a car out. Are we at the state where we've got so many cars and so big of an operation that you go check one out, or do we still have the old style of everybody gets a car?
I think we're a hybrid of that. We have some departments where, the vehicle usage is not daily, so we can have a pool vehicle. We certainly have one in the city manager's office that we do. But then we've got, building inspectors. They have to have a car. We've got folks in public works. They're out in the field. They need to have a vehicle available to them all the time. So, it's, we're looking at the positions and determining the best approach for them in terms of getting them around to and from job sites. Now, I mean, it's not unheard of in police, given the schedules that police officers share vehicles. I mean, that's becoming less and less popular, and you have police officers with take-home vehicles, and then those vehicles are parked in driveways and visible in the neighborhoods. So there are certain benefits to having that visibility as well. So, and I'm assuming that all of our officers are assigned a vehicle, or do they share?
Almost. There's a few operationally they'll share.
Right.
Depending on their area of responsibility.
Okay, very good. Thanks, sir. Anybody else?
I did.
Commissioner Martin.
I just had a clarification for what Vice Mayor Martin said. She commented that David had a reserve sitting back, but I know this because I think we talked about it in a past budget meeting. So this is just for transparency for the public and make sure we are all aware of this, that 700,000 and that 500,000, which is, 1.2 million that we had reserved, that's no longer, we're just budgeting, so we don't have the reserve anymore, correct?
That's correct. So our approach, and what David and Kevin had put together to develop a fleet fund is a very valid approach to doing things. But if we build the fleet fund up to where they have projected, we would be sitting on $5 million, and it would just be sitting there, and we'd be using a little bit every year. Rather than sit on that cash, we can spend that cash on other projects and things that we need to be buying. And we are able to fully fund our fleet needs annually. So just like we do with resurfacing, we say we're going to put $1.5 or $2 million toward resurfacing. We're going to do exactly the same with our fleet and just pay as we go.
Follow up with that. I think the reason why we did that reserve, because in past years, we didn't have the funding to pay for all of the police cars needed. They would present 7 needed all at once, and we're like, whoa,
Yep.
you know, we don't have the money for that in our budget this year, because it just happened, all 7 needed replaced in the same year.
Yes. And if we stick to the schedule that David and his team have put together and follow our vehicle replacement program, then we won't run into those issues.
Thank you.
Yep. You'll just know that you're replacing 7 or 8 police vehicles annually.
So the reason I think we're camped here is because we have bristled over the sawtooth over and over again, year over year. So if this remedies that, awesome. Anybody else? Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Please proceed.
We have another capital project fund that still has proceeds left from a 2005 GEO bond. Funds were borrowed to construct and equip a police station, 3 fire stations, and the EOC. The funds left are approximately $1.1 million, and that's primarily earmarked for sidewalks, but it could be used for anything in the original purpose of the bond issuance. So for the 2026 budget, we have the $1.1 million budgeted for sidewalk projects.
So this, and we had some preliminary discussion about this a month or so ago on sidewalks and shared some ideas where we thought sidewalk replacement and new sidewalks would be. So we'll continue to develop that plan and bring it to you. But this is a good example of our guys discovering money and, oh, we need to spend that money, so there we go.
Might you know what we typically spend annually on sidewalk repair and additions?
You know that? Let's see if David knows off the top of his head.
So we typically, with one of our vendors, we typically do about $75,000 a year, bringing a vendor in.
Repair?
Yeah, on top of what we do internally.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. So this will go a ways. Let's go a long ways.
Yes, we can repair and replace a lot of sidewalk with this money, yes.
And have you got on your radar additional sidewalks? I know that's a sticky wicket.
Yes.
Okay.
We do. We've looked at a few areas and have some good ideas, and yes, they will be difficult because they're retrofitting sidewalks into already developed areas.
Gotcha.
And that's hard.
Maybe paid sidewalks. Okay. All right.
Okay, now we're going to transition into debt. The city has approximately, let's see, 1.1 million in stormwater debt outstanding for 2026, about 14.5 million in capital improvement debt that's secured basically by any available non-ad valorem, and then 12.6 million in the voted debt. If you look over to the far right-hand column, you can see the amount that we spend on annual debt service, 580,000 on stormwater, 1.6 million on the capital improvement type debt, and 1 million on the voted debt. The next several slides are going to be each of the debt service funds. They're really pretty status quo except for one of them, so unless there are specific questions, we can go through. This is the debt service fund for the state revolving loan. That has to do with stormwater. This is the budget for the stormwater revenue note. The Turnbull Creek Debt Service Fund, this does reflect an increase in debt service, assuming we would borrow the additional 5.5 million. It also reflects the additional revenue coming in. 2018 capital improvement debt service is approximately the same level debt service. That is funded with a transfer from the general fund. Similar debt, another capital improvement note, transfer from the general fund of about 470,000, about the same level debt service as prior years. The 2024 capital improvement note, this is your line of credit that was issued to cash flow a variety of capital projects that would be eventually reimbursed with grant proceeds. After doing an analysis of what's still left from borrowings, we determined that we can actually pay down that line of credit quite significantly, and that will reduce interest expense going forward. So you'll see that coming to you at the end of July as a budget amendment. And at this stage, that ends the detail of the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin for wrap up.
Thank you, Joe. Just, you know,
You can,
can I get the screen back on?
yeah.
Thank you. So, what is ahead of us in this budget process? July 22nd, we'll vote on the tentative millage rate, and so we are recommending the same millage rate. You may feel more comfortable adding something to what we're recommending. Just that is tentative. You can go down, but you can never go up. So that is something for you to consider. And certainly, we just discussed the Turnbull Bay and the voted debt millage that we would plan to take on that additional debt in fiscal year 2026. So July 22nd, we'll be setting that tentative millage rate. And unless I hear otherwise from you guys, we will just plan to set that at the current rate. This gives you an idea of, you know, if you wanted to set the tentative millage rate a little bit higher, what that would look like. So,
Just a quick one, the increase for the debt millage rate, that is still an increase, right?
it would be, yes, ma'am. It would show
Yes.
up as additional millage on the tax bill. Yes.
So,
But that's voter approved and,
understood, but
Yes.
it just showed an increase, which is what
Yes.
yes.
I thought it would be holding steady.
It has to increase to cover the additional principal and interest that will be due on the 5.5 million that you would borrow.
That we would borrow, so this is our way of gathering that ahead of time.
Right, to service that additional debt.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't collect this money until,
November to March.
right, so it would be, you know, we would be in fiscal year 26 by the time we start collecting that millage. We would be borrowing the money probably at about that same time.
Okay, so we're.
So I don't know that we would be, you know, collecting money.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I don't know about anybody else, but we get a discount for paying in November, so most of us go ahead and pay in
I'm
November,
with you.
right?
Yes.
So, that millage rate, or the increase would be included in the, what we pay in November.
Correct, yes.
So she raises a point. Is it flat, or is it flat plus the, whatever we put in there to borrow the 5.5 million?
So your general city millage is flat. We're not proposing an increase. The
Actual millage.
the millage will increase because of the voter-authorized Turnbull Bay property acquisition bond.
Thank you for the clarity.
Is that clear? Yeah.
Now I understand.
Can you remind us how many years that's for?
We would borrow for 20 years so that we would levy that additional millage rate for approximately 20 years.
I think it's important that we advertise that and let people understand, because a lot of times we get hit up, hey, you guys raised my taxes. Hey, we did not. You know, that's something you guys did that you're going to be paying for 20 years or whatever, minus whatever we've already got in there. So they understand this was on the ballot.
Yes.
And it was by citizen vote to do this, but as a group, for our city's expenses, we did not.
That's good.
All right. City manager's budget, as we've talked about, includes a 20% rate increase for the stormwater fee, going from 104 to 125 per equivalent residential unit, and the marina docking fees. You see the increases that we're proposing there, and we had additional discussion about that for potential future increases. And so just on those, millage rate and these fee increases, that is, I'm not looking for anybody to vote, but certainly this is the direction that the budget goes in, and we're looking for confirmation that you're comfortable with those as we budget. Looking ahead to 2026, did want to just get on your radar screen some things that we'll be looking at for next year and beyond. One of the things that many communities are turning to now is a fire assessment. And again, this would show up on a property tax bill. You would pay that assessment. It's a very, on your bill, you see what you're getting for your money. This is fire. This can only be spent on fire. And it seems like those are becoming more and more popular. I would anticipate if we did this, we would have a corresponding decrease in millage rate to offset the revenue that we would generate from the fire assessment.
Wow, yes, ma'am.
I just want, and we've had this discussion. My problem with using the term fire protection is that people don't think they have need of fire. They're safe, they're not going to need that. But 80%, I think it's still 80% of the calls that the fire department gets are actually medical. So while we can't call it medical, can we do something, I call it emergency services? Because that's something I think is easier for people to pay for. Just emergency services. So it's just a name. It's just, what can we call it that people say, oh yeah, I'm ready to pay for emergency services.
So, and your point is very well taken. I understand that, and we will look at everything that you've mentioned. I think that the fire assessment has got some very specific parameters around it, what it can be spent on, and I do think it has to be fire related. So your ambulatory services and things like that would have to stay in the general fund.
Well, how we use it, but certainly, fire engines and ambulances qualify as emergency services.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's just advertising, if you will.
And there's a couple of communities in Volusia County that have the fire assessment fee, so that you can just kind of get an idea of the range of what we're looking at. And again, we would plan to offset the millage rate with what we would collect from the fire assessment fee. So if we were going to move forward with that, we would have to conduct a study to give us the idea of how much money would we be charging, what services do we provide, all of that. and then you would have to adopt an intent resolution by January 10th of 2026. So that would be in anticipation of the fiscal year 2027 budget. So that's something that we've got a little bit of time to discuss on. If you're interested in doing that, we can talk about that in the fall. And was there anything else?
Yeah.
Yes, a couple other
Couple
things.
more.
Yes, solid waste, we talked about that. So the current contract expires in September of 2026. We anticipate that we'll start working on this right at the first of the new fiscal year and see where it goes. I think our thought process right now, we've had this hauler for a number of years, a long time. It's probably about time to put it out for bid and consider the services that we are providing and any changes that we may want to. So this will be the time, if you would like to discuss recycling programs or yard pickup programs, the frequency of our service. We do twice a day now. All of that is going to impact the price that we get from the haulers and subsequent prices that we have to charge to our customers. So that will be a discussion point for us, and we can certainly have some of that discussion today if you would like to. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is the golf course. Is it the last thing? No? Okay. Next to the last thing. I've asked Rob to do a deep dive on the golf course. We've put some money in the budget for some consulting services here, and really just to explore what we want out of the golf course, what we think it can be. Do we want to invest further in the golf course? Do we want to look at perhaps a new clubhouse and things of that nature? You have these more modern electronic driving ranges, all of those things. And we just kind of want to get an idea of what we think that, a vision for the golf course, what we want and what you want and what the citizens want. And that will give us an idea how to move forward with the golf course. I mean, golf courses, frankly, a lot of people love golf and play golf. Pickleball is becoming more and more popular, and so things change over time. And, anything is on the table that you might want to consider. And so funding our reoccurring capital, and we're doing a considerable amount of pay-as-you-go in our budget, 1.9 for vehicles and equipment, 1.6 for street resurfacing, 800 for building maintenance, and we want to continue funding that capital on an ongoing program and providing that through the general fund. And so that will keep our need to borrow money at a minimum. We certainly don't want to be borrowing money for this type of maintenance, street resurfacing, certainly not for our fleet, and for air conditioning, roof replacements, and those kind of things. But we have to be purposeful and strategic about making sure that we continue to provide those resources. So that, I believe, is the conclusion of what I've got to say on the budget, and we're happy to answer any other questions that you have. Our next public workshop on the budget will be August the 6th, so we'll set the tentative millage rate on July 22nd. We'll have another workshop on August 6th. We've got that scheduled for another all-day workshop to really, at that point, it'll be answering whatever questions that you have that you need more information on or clarity or whatever. and then we'll move into the process of public hearings for adopting the budget, culminating on September 23rd, which is about a week before the new fiscal year will start. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you all for that. I believe there's a couple of different ways we can go. I don't know what the will of the commission would be. There are a certain number of line items that I know that some of us would like to go through. I know they're looking for some feedback in a couple areas. We can discuss golf course. We can discuss solid waste pickup. And we have about an hour before we have to conclude. How would you like to proceed?
Proceed, because I don't think these will take for very long.
Will or will not?
Will not.
Okay. Any objections to going through the list that we might have here? Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Go right ahead. And point us to the right pages, Val.
Okay, so Rob has my book, but I'm going to, before I jump to Rob, because, well, go ahead, we'll do you first. Okay. So, yeah, we can do yours first, because I prepared him and gave him the things I was going to ask. And it's going to hit the golf course, and it's going to hit the Brandon Center. So the golf course, the revenues were down. I think you have my notes there, Rob. 105,000. It's on page 18. If you're looking in the book.
So I reviewed these with Joe, and I tried to we adjusted the revenues to be more accurate to what the actuals are year over year. If you look at the historicals, we've been underperforming in what's been budgeted in some key categories that have resulted in that 105. That as we move forward, I want to have a better reflection of what the true revenue is, and that's what we put in the book. So amending the projection was why that 105 is the deficit it created.
Is it true that golf course usage nationwide is going down?
No, definitely not. So I want to make sure my message is interpreted correctly. Our revenues are very healthy at the golf course, but they are not accurately reflected, or not as accurately reflected in the projection as I would like them to be. So we have a budget line transfer from the general fund annually from the golf course, which was one of your questions, Valley. I think you had a question on why it was $323,000 line in 24, and next year for 26 it was 171 for the transfer coming into the golf course, and that transfer is reduced because our revenues are up. So as we move forward, my goal for the golf course is to not require a general fund transfer at all, because that means we'll be in the black. So as of this year, to date, we're about 99K in the black with entering Q4. So we are trending to be, that's with capital, that's everything encompassed with the golf course. So we're tracking to be not needing a transfer, and that's what I've prioritized with our golf course team. So I'm trying to make sure the operational methodology that I'm conveying is communicated effectively through the budget back to you.
The
Hope
only
that made sense.
other question on the golf course on page 18, I have the revenues are down 105, but then also I saw something about the golf cart rentals down 150,000.
Sure. So that would be more so reflecting where the accuracy of the revenue is projected to be recorded. So I have a, let me show you. Well, you won't be able to see this, but it'll help me explain. So on the cart rentals, year over year, so tracking back to fiscal '21, we had 522,000, fiscal '22, 519, fiscal '23, 476, fiscal '24, 475, year-to-date fiscal '25, 296. So the difference between the cart rental and the greens fee is how the revenue is split on the back end between the greens fee and the cart fee. So when I come in to pay and I pay my $60 at the counter for my tea time, how we split that fee, how we divvy up that $60 goes between the cart fee and the greens fee. So historically, that line has been over budgeted and we never hit that number. So that's why we amended it for fiscal '26 to be more accurate. So and that's what I worked with Joe on.
Could be the same with this, with the Brandon Center. And this is where I think you guys did a lot of the rolling budget versus based on the actual, because I compare this year to last year on that. But leisure services, I'm showing 200,000 more in salaries, but the revenues went down and the contract went up 43,000. So why is that? It just looks like if the revenues or the salaries are going up that much and our revenues went down and the contract on the leisure services side went up 43,000. Questioning
So when you're looking at the revenues, which revenues are you looking at?
That one would be under your, probably there wasn't a page number on it.
Okay, so for that specific line, the other contractual services line in the leisure budget, the big reason for that jump is the reallocation of the Live Oak Cultural Center COA fee that we pay to them. The Council on Aging, we pay them $27.5K annually to run the senior center. That was not in the leisure services budget previously. That was in a non-departmental fund, and we moved that into the leisure services budget for fiscal '26. So we had that. Additionally, we had funding for the pump track design, which we have reallocated to the park impact fees. So that $15,000 that I had built into my contractual services budget in the leisure budget can be removed. So there's 41,000.
I have 43, so the rest is insignificant. The sports complex went up 125,000 in labor, and the expenses overall went up 275,000 in expenses.
Sure.
But we discussed in one of your last meetings that you were going to start doing advertising on the signs to help offset some of these expenses, but I'm not seeing this. I'm seeing a negative impact with our sports complex versus what we thought we were going to do.
Can you refresh me on the advertising we're looking for?
You were going to sell marketing.
Sure. Naming rights, got it. Yes, so we had $100,000 budgeted for this current fiscal year to do naming rights, and to do an RFP with, a third-party consultant to come out and market, solicit commercial businesses to do naming rights of the fields and whatnot. We went through the RFP process. We had to re-advertise due to some issues along that line, and we're in the process of going out again for that, so we haven't been able to fully get to where we want it to be for that yet. So that's rebudgeted again for fiscal '26 as a basically carryover. We've had no expense from that line to date on this year.
So you haven't been able to pull the trigger on getting those advertisements
Correct.
out there? Okay, got it. But that's still the plan?
Yes.
Got it.
Will we be able to see that in 2026 like we had hoped for 2025?
That's currently the plan. We are in the process of rolling that RFP out. I believe I've been working with Janet and legal to get that ready to go. Additionally, just some other expenses that have come in because of the sports complex. So for reference, we have significantly increase the volume of programs that we offer at the complex. We are offering Little League Baseball twice a year. We're offering flag football. It's going to be twice a year. It's currently once. We're offering 3 seasons of senior softball. We're offering an all-star program for our Little League Baseball teams. All of that has rolled into a increased demand and need for sports officials, uniforms, equipment, sod. So those expenses are stacked into fiscal 26's budget. We do have revenue coming in to offset those expenses through the registration fees charged for those programs. But, you know, $30,000 of sod for the soccer field is part of the budget. That's a new expense that we haven't historically previously budgeted for. So issues like that will be coming up as the need continues to grow.
Thank you on that. Can we go back to golf course for a second? A capacity question, Rob. Not a pricing question, but a capacity question. We all know we got the only Don Ross course in town, probably superior to every other course in town. My expert golfing friends tell me. What is the excess capacity on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis from what you could have on your course or what you're actually filling in foursomes?
Sure.
And do you I want to ask you something if you haven't already studied it, but I know you've been on this a little bit. It's my hypothesis that we have a lot of capacity and underutilization of what we could be filling on that course.
I'm not sure I'd agree with that, sir. So it depends on the interpretation. So peak season for golf is December through March. And December through March, we are impossible to get a tee time at our course. We are slammed from 7 a.m. until 3, 4 p.m. And we're maximizing every tee time we possibly can. So for reference, like this past March, we generated $312,000 in revenue, gross revenue before expenses come out. That's just money coming in the door from tee times and people coming to play. And that was the highest month we've generated over the last 4 years.
I got the 3 months, all right, so 3 or 4 months, but talk to me about the other 8.
Sure. Golf is obviously a seasonal sport. So as the seasons wane, summer is our slow time. This June, we generated $157,000 of revenue. For reference, that's $27,000 higher than last year, $40,000 higher than 2 years ago. So we're tracking to outproduce our previous years at the golf course. As I stated previously, we're tracking to not need a transfer in any capacity from the general fund. So I feel we're very close to maximizing what is close to our potential at the course. Not to say we can't continue to grow. I've been working with Gary and our team to develop a SWOT analysis for next fiscal year with some new marketing strategies, some new programmatical strategies, including tournaments and events, stuff along those lines. So our driving range is now reopened. It was closed for 6 months. That was we lost potentially $70,000 in revenue, hopefully to get that back in insurance. If we were able to get that back, we're going to blow it out of the water for fiscal 25. So, I mean, I've got my thumb on the golf course a lot.
Okay.
So
that gives me great pleasure. Thank you for that. And I know how effective you are. Events. Do we do, some have characterized our golf staff as we like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but we don't want to do weekends, and we don't want to do special events.
Sure.
And we don't want to do a kids program, which paves the way to future golfers. Would you comment on those things?
yes, sir. Those initiatives are in the fiscal 26 SWOT that we developed, developing more tournaments, developing more leagues for couples or evening leagues or youth activities, whether that's lessons or a third party coming in to run a camp. Those have been identified and those are prioritized in the SWOT for the upcoming year.
appreciate that. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very much. I'm with you on the job. I'm not worried. We'll get there. Thank you. Any more on this, for leisure services, ma'am? No?
The only thing I saw is on page 16, the revenues on that one, from 2025 going to 2026. Is that 150 from the liquor sales? The big increase, or from your projected new rates?
You're looking at Brandon?
Page 16, yeah, Brandon.
So so that was your first note, I know. I wasn't sure. Can you repeat the question?
I think Jim can answer
That
that.
150 increase in revenues, is that mostly due to new rates, or just both? Okay.
Yes.
I have more, but not for Mr. Rob.
Okay, very good. I've got another one or two. Rob, would you comment on the arrangement we made with the Brandon Center discounted fee or leasing for the ACA, and their commitment to run two concerts for you, and we do some kind of a gate split on the revenue? How is that proceeding?
I have not been able to finalize terms with the ACA on a performing arts agreement. Jennifer and I have spoken briefly about it. We don't have terms or anything along those lines established. I know she was going through some transition with her staff recently. So we are receptive and willing to engage, but that hasn't been finalized.
Yep, so the manager extended them the privilege of being able to go there and use it for images last year free of charge, for foregoing about $16,000 worth of revenue. And so I was party to that, and just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to reach out. Perhaps a letter to the president of their board from one of you would be appropriate, because I assured them that if they did not come through this year, they would pay full boat for the Brandon Center in years to come, if I have anything to say about it.
Okay.
Ma'am.
I understood in past years that the ACA paid for the Brandon Center with in-kind services. Is there anything to that? Has that changed? Is that still in place?
So what we get for our use of the Brand Center for Images is an in-kind title sponsor or silver sponsor from the ACA. It gives us, there's like the opportunity to present during the festival. Our logo goes on the flyers. It's that type of scope. So
They don't do any more services out at the Babe James?
they do. That's a separate portion of the relationship with Images, or with the ACA. I had been working on a MOU with the ACA, and I worked through a little bit with the city attorney's office to draft this, and it got to the sticking point because I held it up because of the performing arts component. So I have a draft version of an MOU in the queue, trying to work through the entirety of the process. So
Thank you, so we can understand, we want to make sure that we have all the
there's a
financials.
lot of,
Yeah,
a little bit over here, a little bit over here.
yeah,
Sure.
so to put the whole package together so we can understand the whole picture.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I appreciate the commissioner's other jobs and other things that we're doing with the ACA. When the point came up about using the Brandon Center for images, Mr. Cowper was convinced at that time, conversations we had with the board, that they would provide you two concerts, and we would split the gate or do something like that.
Okay.
And that if that doesn't occur, that oral breach of agreement is going to be tremendously impactful to ACA, which is, going through their financial struggles every day. I just don't want them to be surprised if we go through this whole year, there aren't any, and they don't provide you with the concerts. I want you send a warning to them ahead of time that the arrangement they had this past year will not go forward for the next year.
What I would like to do
From your
is-
perspective, the commission can vote what it wants, but from
Sure.
your view.
What I'd like to do is, I was not privy to the understanding that there would be two, the expectation would be that there would be two concerts or events at the Brandon in partnership with the ACA. I didn't know that was established. I will reach out to the ACA, Jennifer and the board, to reestablish dialogue and see where we can take that, vision.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
it. What else you got, ma'am?
The $230,000 deficit for the Brandon Center, we don't really know what new revenues you're going to be bringing in with this restructure. Is it possible that we get you back on the agenda as soon as you can get that in place so that we can see your new numbers again?
I can provide numbers to you today, just for reference. So, give me 1 second. So year to date, as we enter Q4 for this current fiscal, we are approaching 400,000 in gross revenue from the Brandon Center. So right now we have 399.5. Historically, that will be the highest year ever produced at Brandon. Fiscal 26, we will currently have on the books an anticipated roughly 312,000 in revenue before we even enter the year. So our adjustment to the rates, we have about half of the volume of rentals on the books for fiscal 26 than we do for this current fiscal, but we are only about 80,000 behind in revenue because of the adjustments we've made. So it takes a little time for the reservations to catch up to the rates. So while we're having a great year this year, I anticipate fiscal 26 to surpass fiscal 25. So I can get you a more detailed type of report to see that if you would like, but that's where we're tracking.
When will the alcohol sales kick in?
As soon as we can get the license
When-
and the
do you have a
insurance, and
projected
I'm
date on that?
chomping at the bit for that. We have that budget for the fiscal for fiscal 26. It's been a challenging process to work through all those moving pieces with the license and the insurance. Our manager has been working through the application process with the state, and there he's hit some road bumps, but we are close to getting that finalized. We could not obtain a insurance quote from FMIT before we had the license secured. So there's multiple moving pieces that we're trying to navigate to get across the line. But once we're able to secure that license, I anticipate that being a significant revenue source.
I think your numbers are low once you
Yes.
get that hit. So I have confidence that we're going to be break even, if not better, next year.
Very good. Is that it for Mr. Salazar? All right. Thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there other categories you'd like to go through?
I just have a couple.
Please.
The recycling revenue, we lost 1.1 million, I think. But I didn't see any expenses to offset because obviously if we stop the recycling, we should have lower expenses. I saw the expenses go up.
The recycling revenue, we do not charge the customer a separate recycling rate, so the decision was made in the 2026 budget and in the amended 25 budget not to impute recycling revenue, so it's all just reflected in one line item now. It's not separated. Essentially, Finance was doing a calculation once a month just to back into a number for the recycling revenue. It's one rate
Gotcha.
per household.
So I saw that difference on that line item.
It went, so if you look at the regular collection revenue, it should have gone up by a corresponding amount.
It cost us more, yeah? It costs the city more for the recycling compared to the
Yes, there is a
regular stuff.
separate, on the hauler side, there is a separate cost.
What's the differential? Not in gross dollars, but in,
I think is it $3? Yeah, the hauler, is it $3 for the recycling?
Yeah, the hauler charge is $340 a month.
for recycle.
Yes, sir.
For each residence?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am,
that's
sorry.
good. And what for the regular stuff?
The regular, what does it say on there? I think it's
Here, yeah,
17, 18.
yeah.
While she's looking that up, may I ask, everything that's picked up by the claw is done by the city and is not reflected in these rates? Is that accurate?
No, the Waste Pro has their claw trucks as well.
Okay, so do we pay separately for the mattress pickups and the sofa pickups?
So those, depending, it's not necessarily the city pays extra. The resident is charged for a special pickup on some of those items. If it goes beyond the scope of, for example, like a white good is generally an extra pickup, so an extra charge they would have to pay for that.
How does somebody learn? Like, I see a lot of mattresses
Yeah.
and sofas and chairs out, and I don't know if they know to call and make arrangements.
It's typically only for the white goods is where they're gonna get that extra fee, through Waste Pro themselves. If they need the claw, typically they'll call either Public Works or Waste Pro and schedule a pickup. We are working with Waste Pro right now for the bigger yard waste piles, to try to alleviate that to where we just can get to every pile, throughout the city.
Yeah, I'm just surprised to hear that typically people call because not so sure. But anyway, I'll take your word for it.
So you had asked the hauler rate per month, that's currently $18.24. That includes the recycling rate
For what the hauler charges,
currently.
the 18 is just for the garbage.
Okay.
And then the 340 would be additional.
So it's 18 for the garbage and another 3 something.
For the recycling.
Got it.
The customer's paying almost $26.
Why is he paying more?
Oh, the customer is paying more so that the city earns a profit to do the administration of the contract, customer service. There's some employees.
The tipping
Oh,
fees
and
at the
tipping fee,
landfill.
yeah.
Okay. Do we agree to, are we going to talk about the recycle thing at another time or today?
Up to you guys, we're all ears.
Do we pay additionally for landfill?
We pay a
For the
tipping
tipping.
fee to the landfill, to the county.
So we pay for both the collection and the landfill?
Yes.
Thank you.
Say that again. We're paying for them to pick it up and we're paying we're paying the landfill for them to put it in the landfill?
Yes.
Interesting. How much is that?
1.5 million is budgeted in the current year, and that's anticipated to go up about
So
50,000.
they're actually just transportation.
Yeah.
We're paying for storage and a premium for recycle. Fascinating. All right, so,
Can we do away with it?
well, that's the question. You talk to some consultants that are in the business locally about the theater of recycling, which is how good do you want to feel and how much are you willing to pay to feel good? And I don't mean to be crude, but it's not really going where we think it's going, at least not the glass. I don't know about the other stuff because nobody's upline taking the glass anymore. So do we want to bust the bubble and rip the Band-Aid off and say, no, we're not going to do that anymore, and take the heat from those that would say, how dare you not recycle?
May I say,
Yes,
it's the
ma'am.
biggest nudge about the environment. I have been asking for us to stop recycling now for several years. Palo Alto, Stanford did a study on following their recycling, and 1/3 of it they could never track. About 1/3 went into the landfill, and about 1/3 they saw floating down the Mekong Delta. So and then we could get through even the carbon footprint behind recycling and making new product. So since I'm the biggest environmental nudge here, may I be the first to recommend that we cease recycling?
All right, McGurk, how'd we get here?
I'll spare everybody on the history. I think it's irrelevant. My only so I'm generally supportive of that. We made a decision that I didn't support years ago that would keep doing this for the glass, keep charging for the glass. The glass is heavy. I didn't agree with it then. I don't agree with it now. So I'm more than happy to actually pull the trigger on and educate the public. We're going to have to educate the public on it. Most of them don't know. Everyone's been ingrained in everybody's head. But my one question is, with the roughly 1 million in savings, how much is that going to then go up? What's the net benefit? Because we're going to throw that out anyway. So it's not like we get a full $1 million back, right? That doesn't, because we're going to just throw that away. It's where it goes.
Right, I see what you're saying. It becomes,
So you have the product that still has to be disposed of, so it'll go
Right.
to recycling from garbage. So I just think we need some
It'll-
good numbers when we
It'll
move
result
forward.
in our tipping fees going up.
Sure.
Because we're taking more to the
And I'm just
landfill.
saying, I'm for it, but let's make sure we have the accurate numbers, because it's gonna be a touchy issue. And let's make sure we don't get, we wanna make sure we have our, T's crossed and I's dotted, and no gotcha moments for the
I was
people
just-
who are gonna refuse to see the reality of the situation.
What percentage of our recycling goes up to the sorting center in, what is it, Ormond? And then is trucked to the landfill? Because X percentage of our recycling is just taking a couple of trips. It goes up to get
Understood.
sorted out, and then we pay again to transfer it to the landfill, where we pay for the landfill.
I mean, to get us prepared for, as city manager spoke earlier, for an updated, a new contract essentially going out to bid. We are doing a full recycling analysis for the last several years to see exactly where we're at. And we can answer a lot of those questions. How many tons are we anticipating going to the landfill now? So we'll have all that information as we go out to bid.
And will we also know what the market is for different types of the recycled materials?
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ashley, anything?
No, I'm fine.
Commissioner Perrine?
I have one more question, but it's about workers' comp.
Okay, we'll
I
get
don't know
there.
who does that.
We'll get there in a minute. All right, so on the landfill stuff, we're not going to vote anything today because of workshop, but you know our intent. You got at least 3, 4 that want to examine the recycle efficacy and whether it's a fallacy or not. Again, just like with this budget, we'll talk about that in a minute. Comm plan is the key, how we communicate. I see Ava in the back, between she and Phil and the rest of the team, we ought to be able to put together some robust messaging so that people are not wondering, they're very well informed. So let's make sure we do that. All right, golf course, your last one, go ahead.
The last question I have, and you guys can celebrate, workers' comp, non-departmental, it jumped to 132,000, and I just wondered, was that from a rate increase or a big claim?
we are anticipating a rate increase. I believe we plugged in, look at the assumptions, it was 3%? Yeah. Oh, for 15% increase. It will be driven by our claims experience, the market, and Heather maybe can speak to it a little more if you need more detail. We are still in the renewal.
Yeah, we're still in
Phase.
renewal, but I think the other part is some analysis over the last couple years is we haven't been reporting some of our positions correctly. There was an old methodology that they used when they reported those positions, and we've been analyzing that and getting those reported. Because we've been doing it more correctly, I think it's led to some increases in our experience rating, and it's leading to increases in the premiums for those.
Is that something our risk manager can help write that down?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Our new person, or
Yes.
full-time versus
Yes.
part-time?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one general, in the budget book, we use, 2025 actuals, FY 2020 actuals. And I've been trying to get the as of date. Makes a huge difference.
Okay. Yes. That was probably, I want to say as of April 30th, but we can ensure that we have an as-of date going forward.
I would appreciate it. That puts it in a much better context for me.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your work. We want to give everybody an opportunity to opine about next steps and what they've got to have to be on the affirmative side of your approval of this. I've got my own opinions, but I'll go last. Start with Vice Mayor.
I understand a lot of it. I know it's interesting because indeed the methodology has changed, and this is the first of our moving towards a more accurate representation of the actual monies held by and earned by and paid by the city. So I very much appreciate that. I expect next year will be a little easier. And I know, I know we've been, some have a goal of making it a rolling 2-year budget, which I think would be easier on many of the departments and smooth out some of our bumps. So I still have some general questions, but I think they need to percolate first so I can ask them coherently. Thanks.
Commissioner McGurk.
I'm very comfortable with what I've seen, actually. I think the transition has been very smooth. I think the ability to understand and the way you've all communicated the budget has been seamless, and I'm very impressed with it. And so we have challenges ahead of us. You've presented them in a very professional manner, and I'm excited to move forward, and I look forward to the tentative millage and where we go in getting this thing wrapped up. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Ashley.
I thought this meeting was very stimulating. I appreciate all the effort that everybody has done, and the input that you guys give is really beneficial to me. And I had some ideas about a lot of things before this meeting, but now I'm looking forward to the second meeting to really bombard everybody with a lot of ideas. So anyway, thank you for everybody.
Really good. Thank you. And our budget best expert, thank you, Commissioner Perrine, for your due diligence, your comments,
This
ma'am.
was very refreshing this year. I just can't tell you how pleased I am that you're coming to us with your recommendations versus what should we cut. And we had to look out there at staff and say, we don't know, we don't work with them one-on-one, they don't report to us. So I can't tell you how nice this process has been this year. And to all year long, you guys approach us with, here's some more money that we weren't reporting, you know. What if it had gone the other way? I'd be sweating bullets, but I'm not. And it wasn't anything that we didn't have or didn't disclose. It was just reporting, and most people understand that. And with this process, with how you did it, and our numbers may look like we're jumping to $200 million budget. We're not. But I think this process, we can direct our citizens to this budget workshop to explain, because when we're out at a restaurant, I'll have somebody come up to me and say, we didn't grow that much, so why did your city budget grow that much? Well, we can actually direct them, send them the link to this budget workshop, tell them where to go immediately to the part that talks about that, which is in the beginning, pretty much. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather it be, really advertised and put out there on however you want to get it out there. It doesn't matter what we tend to do. We still have citizens say that we don't communicate well enough. I don't know how we could even do it better, but that's what we have. We always have that, and unless it impacts them, they don't show up to the meeting, It's like this every time. But we have resources that we can direct them to if that does happen. Because I always say, well, we have budget meetings, you're welcome to come and do public participation. Because sometimes we're out there in the field and they say, well, you just rubber stamp that budget. Like, no, I'm going to encourage you to come and spend 9 hours with us and ask our staff, do we rubber stamp this? You guys are like, no, we do not. We line item, analyze everything. And we have this online as well, so they don't have to scream that we don't have it available. What we have here today is the PowerPoint, but you always have the budget online. And they are free to email questions in if they have questions. But I just want to thank you guys and staff for being prepared. This year has been the best since I've been here. They know the answers, they know the questions. We didn't prep them. We didn't even get really involved until today on this, except for our preliminary one, where unlike last year, we're questioning every little move. We didn't even have to do that this year, and we didn't have a tax increase. So that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. To Mr. Cowper, thank you for orchestrating a very effective process, and for the staff, for the senior staff, for standing up for what you need to do your job. I commend Director Jury for opening up that dialogue, what you've done, not just for this today, but since you got here, to get your staff familiar with what the operation is all about, and to make the staff, and I've heard reports that they know that you're trying to facilitate their work. You're trying to get them. It's a seed change, and it was welcome. So thank you and congratulations on that. The mission of the future is to get this communicated effectively. There are going to be those that are going to say, what was the number last year? What's the number this year? And that's all they care about. Now that will be harangued around and said, can you believe they've got an $80 million increase? We've got to tell that story effectively. One of the antidotes is your millage isn't changing. So relax. It is in the accounting. It is in the bookwork, and we're going to tell you we're going to tell you that in as clear language as we can do. And so, believe me, if you can try it on me and I can get it, most of the people will be able to get it. So we're anxious to have that story told faster than light, and we're happy to help you if you need to try it out. Try it out on us, and we'll give you our best at what doesn't make sense. They go forward for 27 and 28, both in governmental budgeting and in private sector. Those that are in the jobs for long periods of time are not anxious to change the way they do business. Mr. Cowper used something today called high-performance team and high-performance organizations. If we are to become a high-performance organization, we're going to need to continue to change, continue to evolve how we do business. A forcing function that wasn't very polite and wasn't very popular has been a wedge. and a wedge was issued by the CFO and the CEO or the head of the agency that I was serving in. And what that meant was you continue to do everything that you're doing, and you're going to do it for 10% less than you did it last year, or 15%, which meant you had to re-engineer how you did the stuff rather than just say, well, what do you want me to cut out, boss? That was my first answer. What do you want me not to do this year? And I said, no, you're going to do all the things you did last year, but you're going to do them differently, and you're going to do them better. And so think about that, study that, decide over, you got a year to decide if that's a technique you want to use. But wouldn't it be a gift to the city to be able to say, we're able to give you the same services or better services, done better, at a cheaper price for the following year? We know that this is the only place they can shop. So you've got them in that regard. But wouldn't it be a gift if we could do that? All right. Well, thank you very, very much. We'll look forward to the 22nd and the workshop to follow. Thank you all for your time. Nice 6 hours spent. Appreciate it. We're adjourned.